Welcome to Risk Roundup. When quantum communications, quantum computing, and quantum radar brings the potential to undermine the ongoing information age technologies and infrastructure, the global security landscape and power dynamics are expected to change rapidly. Moreover, the emerging intelligence apparatus, satellites, secure communication networks, and stealth technologies are expected to fundamentally transform all components of a nation across cyberspace, aquaspace, geospace, and space, in short referred to as CAGS. So, as quantum computing, an emerging technology based on the principles of quantum physics and theory, is increasingly becoming important and gaining traction for all the components of a nation, but especially the financial industry. It is important to understand what the strategic implications of advances in quantum physics are. To discuss quantum physics as it relates to the financial systems, I'm delighted to welcome Joseph Firmage to this roundup. Joseph is the founder and chairman at National Working Group on New Physics and is based in the United States. Welcome, Joseph. We are so very honored to have you on Risk Roundup.
Thank you, my friend. It's an honor to share this dialogue with you. It's a topic of great interest to me throughout decades of my life.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Joseph, what is driving the experimentation and adoption of quantum physics application?
Quantum physics is in conflict with general relativity, and quantum physics tends to explain things at a small scale and general relativity at the large scale. And the two have been kind of at war for a long time. But quantum physics is where we're moving towards because it influences how we actually can control matter through propulsion, energy generation, and artificial intelligence. All of those things, propulsion, energy, and AI, absolutely drive the global economy in every which way you can possibly name. And having 40 offices in 10 nations back before Google Googled, building the infrastructure for companies like First Data, which runs the global credit card processing industry. Mitchell Madison building bank software throughout Manhattan, and the Baby Bell Laboratory for voice over IP. By '98, we had a front row seat back then for the evolution of the electronic economy. I cannot say that we invented the internet, but we played a pretty big role in evolving the first epoch of the internet economy.
Yes.
And so I have made it a primary focal point of my career.
Yes. No, that is definitely
to include economics of the future. Of the future. You can't separate them anymore.
Yes, very true, very true. And you made a very interesting point that AI is driving quantum, physics. So for a lot of people, they do not see the correlation that they are thinking that with, quantum physics emerging the applications, that the AI, what is happening in the field of AI, that they are not able to interconnect both the fields. So you made a very interesting point that that is one of the drivers for the emerging, application. So from my understanding, I see two areas where the applications are emerging. One is, of course, the military applications, and the other is the financial applications. Are there any other sectors where you see the quantum applications emerging?
Well, there are several. One of them is currency itself. You see the emergence of cryptocurrencies, that are have very interesting and valuable qualities of privacy management and the protection of private transactions. But also you have big questions like, well, what does the U.S. Treasury have to say about that? And what is the future backing of the dollar? But quantum physics also deals with fundamentally how information is stored, protected, and shared. And as quantum computing comes about, you're going to have incredibly more rapid communications with a lot more intelligence. AI combined with quantum physics means that you will have thinking internet everywhere. You'll
Yes.
have money that thinks. You'll have debit from you. These transformations are sweeping, and so my particular focus is as it impacts economics. Quantum physics is going to redefine the new basket for the U.S. dollar. Okay, by creating a digital currency that can be enforced and managed properly by regulatory agencies of the United States and other to legal status, if you will. And that's one of the objectives of half of my life at manyone.org.
That's very interesting. And the point that you made, that you will see these things thinking, like you will see math. It's almost like, not only just humans, thinking will evolve, but also you will see machines thinking evolve because of AI, and of course, because of the applications of quantum, physics. But also we will see the thinking, or, intelligence gathering capability of matter, and even probably mother nature. So we are probably going to see fundamental transformation, because we are not just talking about intelligence evolution in humans, but intelligence evolution in machines, intelligence evolution from matter, and from intelligence evolution from mother nature. So with all
It's carbon meets silicon.
yes,
Or
yes,
carbon invents how to use it. And so imagine this, uh, uh, we're facing a world in the robotic economy that can animate beings like Coca-Cola, or your Toyota automobile, or your Apple cell phone. And so we are wholly dependent now as a globalizing civilization upon machines that help us think and work faster. What I would expand the question from just quantum physics, but to physics, how physics is impacting the economy.
yes,
You then add in propulsion and energy, particularly those two govern how machines and we move, how we power. And the brains of the machines are AI.
yes,
And so I've been working with my teams on a new AI platform that interconnects other AI platforms in a manner that is sort of like future-proof, because we can interconnect with all sorts of AI systems. But in terms of economics, I admire Wall Street, and I admire the efforts of the Treasury itself to figure out how you get a systematic regulatory infrastructure around digital currencies, so that you can have regular markets, you can have the same kind of predictive powers that we have enjoyed for a century, and that have been thrown into some degree of flux, because after all, what is currency?
yes.
And so digital envelopes that are secured by, let's just take the United States. What makes a dollar bill different from a piece of double-ply toilet paper?
What?
Somewhat the same to print. Okay. The full faith and credit
Yes.
of the Constitution.
It's always right that who is backing it, and whether that is a reliable backing.
And
That's
is a
what
legal
matters,
tender for all debts, public and private. Those two sentences on every buck in your pocket
Yes.
define the difference between one piece of paper and toilet paper.
Yes.
And so the great gift of Wall Street and its sister institutions around the world is that they've proved that uh, future values based fiat currency works. And so in the digital age, I'd like to see the U.S. Treasury evolve the dollar backing to include not just the basket of energy to burn through oil, but to include intellectual property of yourself, of people, in the basket that backs the dollar.
Yes.
So think about it. If
That, that
if you were to put a basket of currency of every portal and website and sound song story on social media, and that backs an electronic dollar, that's something that's really rugged,
no,
and
that
that's what people are seeking.
yes, you are right about it, and I hope that they create that platform and that infrastructure, because right now you see so much theft of intellectual property. I mean, a lot of other countries, are just stealing, intellectual property, modifying a little bit, and then putting in their own products and services, and so many nations lose because of that. And if you we have seen the cryptocurrencies also. So many cryptocurrencies, emerged, and every ICO that went on, launched, that they all had their own cryptocurrency, with that, and investors lost so much money in that. So there are, yeah, what you were telling me, if that is going on and if that is going to materialize, that would be so useful. It would be so beneficial for the not only financial industry but the global economy, because it will bring some sort of stabilization, because this blockchain and cryptocurrencies and ICOs has damaged financial industry to a certain extent, because of the lack of credibility, and investors just invested so much in that without doing due diligence, just based on white papers. So there is a lot that has happened. So I'm really glad to hear that this applications are emerging, and US dollar would be in that form, and there will be a solid backing of the US Treasury, and that is something to look forward to. And more than that, it will be energy efficient, because we want all these blockchains, all these digital applications that are emerging, that all the systems, we want them to be energy efficient. And with quantum physics, and with neuromorphic computing and all, we hope that this is going to materialize very soon, that we will be seeing those complex challenges, complex problems solved. So you talked about this cryptocurrency and United States initiatives, but what other initiatives are emerging in the financial industry from across nations? How many other financial institutions are working towards developing some sort of quantum applications?
This brings us to an example of what can happen. Let
Yes.
me give you a hypothetical. Okay, let's say that you have a lifetime card. Okay, that is the same footprint as a debit or credit card. Okay, and that it can have Visa, Mastercard, Amex, Discover, etc. Uh, logos on it, or at banks that sponsor it. But a lifetime card, let's say it has multiple currencies in it, synced with the cloud. So you can have US dollars, you can have French francs, you can have education dollars that are only spendable for education purposes, for example. You could have Utah dollars. So if you had a common carrier of an envelope of multiple currencies, that each nation, that each state, that each local community, or that each sector can create in the sense of a Democratic supermajority of, say, a state wants to build 12 new high schools. The power of this idea is you could have, say, Utah education dollars to build 12 high schools without taxation. Why?
Yeah.
Look, if Google went public with a big red multi-billion-dollar loss for years, right? Years before it broke a dime, but it had future values estimated, right? So if we can give non-inflationary monetary creation power to Google through an IPO, why can't we give it to a young newborn girl who's about to Google and say she is worth her life, her future life is a future value that we can roughly project and fund to get her through college. And so I see an evolution of new currencies that are formally backed by regulatory agencies of modernized nations that are legitimized. Think blockchain and Bitcoin and such, able to follow a path to be legitimized by the treasuries of nations. That's the project that I've been working on, and it's symbolized by something like a lifetime card that can hold multiple currencies in the same envelope.
It's very interesting. I think it's evolutionary what you're talking about. I'm going to think about this concept a little more because it would fundamentally transform uh, the very fabric of society and how we, uh, from the birth of a child, how we educate and how child is able to think or create or wants to do anything, how it could be funded, and how I think it's very evolutionary. I'm
Let me
perhaps
give you an example that's real life. Ithaca, New York, named after a wonderful ancient city. And a friend of mine, Carl Sagan's brilliant widow, Andrienne, and I partnered up on a physics project, the solar sail, years ago. And when I flew out to Ithaca to spend time at their home, that community, which Cornell University is built around, has Ithaca time dollars that are required to be used in order to get a business license, perfectly legal. And so the community decided basically to make Ithaca time dollars a required currency to get a business license. So I was treated to meals and lunches and dinner and a hotel, transportation through Ithaca time dollars, which are completely compatible with the U.S. Constitution. But imagine generalizing that with, say, in the U.S. Treasury support for that kind of concept. And imagine if you have a common envelope internationally that can contain local, state, national, and sector-specific currencies that are powered up by referenda of democracies of citizens. Over 30 years, you could transform the entire taxation system. You could transform, the bond markets in a fundamentally new way. And frankly speaking, Wall Street would have a new job. Measure the performance of the charges of these currencies. And I think that's it's a multi-decadal project, but I think it's very realistic, very doable, and frankly inevitable.
no, it's a very promising proposition and very promising hypothesis, and it's certainly doable. And I'm also thinking that if we are able to integrate human identity with that in an effective way, so that security, that would be very transformative. I think you're onto something. It's very, very evolutionary. And you said you are working on this.
Yes, it's called manyone.org, and manyone is the English name for the motto of the U.S., and it's in Latin e pluribus unum, or from many one, and it's all about money. It's on every coin in a U.S. pocket. Okay.
I mean, in nutshell, everything is about money, isn't it? I mean, if you look at college education, or you look at anything, it is everything.
It's yeah, it's the circulatory system of
It
running
is.
ourselves
It
for
is.
society, and there's nothing wrong with money. Uh,
Yes, there's nothing
there's
wrong.
nothing wrong with money. We can argue about how much money becomes greed that's unjust and inequitable, but I'm certainly a capitalist, and I really respect Adam Smith, and so the notion of a third millennium capitalism that actually could be a card in your pocket, whether it's virtual or your cell phone, but you get my drift, where um, it contains your available spending power in multiple packages. So, for example, if you're a professor and you get a grant from a government agency in Switzerland, wherever, and that grant is not originated out of taxation, but by a referenda amongst the citizens affected that say, this project is worthwhile, let us fund it. Okay. And so and I think this is really important, because in an age where even Wall Street executives are now competing with AI for a wage, we got to be able to create wealth out of the fact that we burned it. After all, let the robots work for us. Come on, and let them work for us. We need to be monetized. We need to be capitalized
Yes.
by our inventions and by our productivity and our accomplishments,
Yes.
and take some more time off.
Yes,
Really.
absolutely, absolutely. We need to figure out new ways of making money for individuals, because a lot of things are going to be automated. AI is going to replace most of the processes, which we never thought possible. So, yes, jobs and wages, all that is going to decline. So, and economic, not only technological singularity, but economic singularity will happen. So, we have to figure out for individuals how they are going to purchase things, because if there are no jobs, if there are no earnings, then how is income going to happen, and how is purchase going to happen? So yes, new ways we need to figure out how to create opportunities for humans to make money. And uh, there are definitely new ways of going forward. And
Here's a specific example of how to do it. Uh, at manyone, for example, we want to create a billion new success stories in the global economy at the individual and Main Street level in 60 months. Okay, here's how we propose it. Jump to the left-hand side of the dot. Get your own domain, and your songs, your scrapbooks, your stories, your science, your networks become you.com/Facebook, /Instagram, /LinkedIn, not the other way around, and let them pay you every month for the rights to use your your IP.
Exactly.
Otherwise, fire their ass.
I agree with you. I wrote
Okay,
about
use my language, but so
Yes, you are right. Absolutely. This is what I propose, that, we, as all these things are emerging, we need to figure out new ways. I mean, people say that let's have a universal basic income, but that is not going to be enough. We don't know how much is going to be enough for any individual or any family to live on. So let's create new sources. And this is what I said, that the data that we create needs to belong to us, and we then sell
yeah,
it. I already wrote about that, so you are
yes,
absolutely right. And
you're
that is,
spot on.
yeah, we need but broader discussion on that, because I did write about this on Forbes. I wrote an article, and I have started this discussion, but let's see how this goes forward. People like you need to talk about this more and make this a reality, because there are some platforms emerging where personal data can be sold, and they are still emerging, but this needs a broader discussion, because there are so many power players for this data, right? I mean, big data is a big business. So all this big media, and like Facebooks and Googles and all, they are controlling a lot of this data, which is fine, because that was the model that they created and that worked. But we have to look towards the future, the security of the humanity. So we do need to create these platforms, and we need to create new ways, new systems by which this is possible. And you just suggested something, that is so practical, that we create a domain for any individual, everything, the whole
To everyone their own domain, to everyone their own app, and 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 be take back control of your life, your privacy, your IP,
yes,
because
yes,
it is what you love to do, what you have to do, what you want to do. And so if you can spend your life doing what you want to do rather than what you have to do to
yes,
subsist, and get paid for it,
yes.
uh, by moving to the left-hand side of the dot, you're no longer a rounding error.
Very true, very true. And also that will bring the integrity of the data. Right now, a lot of this intelligence is emerging based on the data, where, we are not sure whether that data is accurate or not, because they're using social media data, and they're using our data from, insurance, and all different, formats that is coming on, but we just don't know if that data is accurate. With this model that you are proposing, the integrity of the data will also emerge. So anyone, and then, based on the nature of the data, that any user wants it, they can, purchase it, license it, and the individuals who are,
Exactly. And you get a wire transfer
yes,
per month from every robot that you hire, forward slash. Put your Facebook.xyq there.
yes,
And one of the most exciting things about it is that it's the pre-capitalization potential of it. Again, I say Wall Street has proved one great value, that you can make fiat money work with relative stability of inflation and deflationary pressures. So why not generalize that to each human being as a market cap? Okay, with a valuation at birth that says, "Hey, we're going to fund this child without taxation all the way through college." You know, it's not if it's not inflationary for Google to go public, why would it be inflationary for a child to be born?
yes,
They're both future values. Now, our system in particular has a quality that I think is really, really important. When you move to the left-hand side of the dot, the words that you use to describe yourself are important. And so, how about this? What if you could create your own page one on Google, Bing, and Yahoo in a week? Create your own page one. Basically, because, you know, what do you think is more valuable, Lipitor.com or Lower My Cholesterol? really. Okay,
Yes.
so what's more valuable? Best plumber in Topeka, Kansas,
Yes.
as a or Bobby's plumbing dot com.
Yes.
Okay,
I
so
hear.
unless you know Bobby in Kansas, you're not going to know who the heck you're typing in. So if you type in a phrase in Google, for example, why not register the phrases that describe who, with, what, when, where, why, and how? That you are unique.
Yes, that is very important, and also it what it could do. Right now, the goals around this, what you're talking, are different, but the way I see it is that it also increases, it helps with the security. Because think about it, if every action, if everything that a human does right from the birth is included in that, is tracked in that, and is reported in that system that you are creating, then the democrat right now, if you see all these emerging technologies, they have dual use. So it could be used for good, it could be used for bad. And this democratization of destruction, do it yourself movement, that there is
It's the price of weapons of mass destruction falling into lower class income brackets.
exactly.
That's a real transformation of security. You touched on something I want to come back to, because you really touched a nerve for me on something you just said. If you wanted the greatest economic renaissance in history, perhaps, I don't know, but at least modern history, um, take a look at the credit rating agencies. Okay,
Very true.
you got in the U.S. you got the three major consumers, and Standard and Poor's and Moody's for currency and other more complex instruments. You know, if they were to um, have algorithms that are not opaque, but rather respect human values, it's actually the rating agencies for credit that are throttling the global economy, in my opinion. Okay, the algorithms of who is valuable and who is not in terms of credit worthiness. I'll give you an example. I had $5 million stolen from me in 2001 from an annuity agency that just went rogue. Several of us millionaires were just raped, and it tanked my credit score below 600 for a number of years, until the felons were put in jail and SEC did their job and FBI did, and so forth. But what did that theft have to do with my credit worthiness?
True.
And so what does a young new worker have to do to prove their credit worthiness? What if the credit rating agencies were to be focused on as an injection instrument for economic growth by changing the algorithms in their credit systems, their credit authorization systems? You would have so many cars fly off the lots. You'd have so many homes bought. You'd have so many developmental projects just by changing the damn code in the top 5 agencies in this nation that rate credit. And if I were ever president for a day, that's what I would start out with, basically. Because look, we are entering the era of abundance.
Yes.
And we built these incredible globalizing machines, and we need to share the productivity benefit, not hoard it. And so the democratization of the instruments of productivity of our machines need to be shared by all.
Yeah.
And that's a vision that I'm doing my best with our teams to advance. And we have some explicit proposals that are being made to at least the U.S. government on what could be done in that matter.
Yes, very true. Because these are necessary things. Because as we move forward, if all the wealth and all the prosperity is located in one nation or few nations, then what happens to the rest of the humanity? I mean, not only this economic singularity that's coming our way, but also the space age that is emerging before us with the space mining and asteroid mining and all the trillions, quadrillions dollars of worth, of uh, economy that is emerging. Who is going to benefit? Because right now the laws are that whoever mines, the product belongs to them, the resources belong to those innovators, entrepreneurs. But what happens to the rest of the nations? So these are big questions we do need to think about, because the system that you just talked about, the credit rating system, they are all outdated. All these systems are outdated. They are not you know working effectively, and they're not giving us the what we need, the data, the credit rating, or whether who should be given loan, or who is worthy, or who is capable of paying back. None of those things, the systems are not working. So we do need to transform the systems, and I hope that what you are working on, all the new initiatives that are emerging from your organization, your thought leadership, that we are able to solve some of these complex problems that we are facing, and that we are able to, what you build the foundation, that we are able to build on that and solve bigger problems for the all the nations, for the future of humanity, so that we can all unite, and collectively we can work towards exploring the space and exploring the universe, and create new planets, or or create not new planets, we can create new planets, but we can create homes for the humanity on these new planets in the solar system. So I hope that we are able to do that. Having said that, what would you like to tell our global viewers and listeners about not only your initiatives, but also about those young curious minds who wants to solve big problems facing humanity, not just their community or their nation, but for the humanity? What would you like to tell them, that where they should focus on and what they should be doing going forward?
Thank you for that opportunity. My acid test for myself and our teams is, if a 12-year-old African American young girl in South Central LA with 1.5 parents, 2.5 siblings, and 4.5 gunshots within earshot every night, if that 12-year-old girl can grow up believing that she could become Uhura on a real starship instead of competing with robots to flip burgers at Burger King for a minimum wage, that young girl is going to pursue a wholly different path in life. And so the Academy of Science and Arts was, this is kind of a secret, but it's, I guess, no longer, it is intended to build kind of like the precursor to a Starfleet Academy, where we're really making the fundamental physics advancements in how to control gravity and how to leave the solid fuel age behind, and how we can grow 2x4s out of carbon fiber instead of cut down trees. How you can have force field walls. How you could even have a floating car and land on your garage rather than take off on the wheels. Over the next 30 to 40 years, starting next year, this is not any longer a lifetime away. I'm 48, so the generation younger than me and older than me are living a singularity, as you say, and it is our great privilege. I pinch myself when I get up to be able to work on these things and perhaps have some real impact, and inspiring young people with the fact that it's possible with new physics breakthroughs. This is the point of our call in the first place.
Yes.
How will physics impact the global economy?
Yes.
Profoundly, because it's going to create the most sweeping economic development renaissance since the last one, probably a lot bigger, and it's going to give the opportunities for young minds to drop their weapons and let them to begin to rust.
Yes.
Okay, and over the next few decades, ethnic conflicts, which too often boil down to resource constraints and inherited grudges from haves and have-nots. And so I really am serious when I say our R&D programs in advanced science can make science fiction into science fact. And if that's possible, we can inspire generations to come and renew our world and start making some colonies on other ones.
Wonderful. Now that is the hope, and that should be the dream. It's all about imagination. If we can imagine something, we can, create that. We can build that. So the young people should not focus on too much on grades and all that, but they should start, understanding the fundamentals of the science so that they can, begin imagining and they can begin creating their vision, and then they can go after that. And with the academy that you're talking about, that would be a wonderful place to start. So thank you so much, Joseph, for participating in Risk Roundup today. We appreciate your thoughtful insight on quantum physics application of financial industry. Although we couldn't go much into the detail, we just talked about the cryptocurrency and the broader.
We can talk about security issues another the next call.
Yes, there is a lot to talk. So yes, we should have definitely another Risk Roundup. So even if a single decision maker can understand the strategic implications of what we just talked about based on the discussion we had today, this Risk Roundup dialogue has been of service, and we thank you for that.
Go to newphysicsteam.org. New Physics Team. That's a start.
Okay, wonderful. So New Physics Team. Thank you so much. So Risk Roundup, a global initiative launched by Risk Group, is a security risk reporting for risk emerging from existing and emerging technologies, technology convergence and transformation happening across cyberspace, aquaspace, geospace, and space. We at Risk Group believe that risk management, security, and peace, they walk together hand in hand. Though security is related to management of threats and peace to the management of conflict, risk management is related to management of security vulnerabilities as well as management of conflict. And it is not possible to conceive any one of the three without the existence of the other two. All three concepts feed into each other. We believe that the security we build for ourselves is precarious and uncertain until it is secure for everyone across nations. Tradition becomes our security. So if we build a culture of managing risk effectively, it will lead us to security, and security will lead us to peace. Let's manage the existing and emerging risks together. For more information on the Risk Roundups, to watch the Risk Roundup webcast or hear the Risk Roundup podcast, please go to riskgroupllc.com and do not forget to subscribe and share. Until next time, I'm Jayashree, host of Risk Roundup, signing off. See you next time. Thank you.